Well, hi, thanks for talking to me. I actually talked to you last season for Mayfair Witches, but I don't think we did video, so you probably don't.
Oh, well, nice to see you face to face. Well, through the screen. It looks like
Yes,
you're in the cosmos somewhere.
yep,
Amazing.
yep, I'm floating somewhere in space. So I enjoyed the film, but
Oh,
talk
thank
about
you.
it. I know in the press notes you said, you like an underdog story and everything, but where did the actual idea where did that come from to make this?
Um, I think I wanted to make something that was a throwback to the films that made me love cinema, that made me fall in love with cinema. Um, I wanted to make a real character piece, something that you're following. I think in today's world, we don't really get as much films about the human condition, about adult films, films that make you feel something. I wanted to make something relatable, um, something that moved me. And I think you've got to make what you love, otherwise no one else will love it. First and foremost, I think I'm very taken with Mikey as a character and Michael Pitt playing it. When it did come to me, it brought me to tears, the thought of Michael going through this journey and what he'd done and what he'd been through. Because I think that's something that we've all, there's something in there for everyone. Specifically, certain moments and relationships I've had in my life that are, I guess
Mhm.
formed inspiration for the character and some of the interactions throughout it. And just that question of if you only have one day, what would you do? Who would you see? What would you say to them? I think that's a question that we can all ask ourselves. And sometimes before it's too late, like you never know when it's going to be your last day. It could be tomorrow. It could be 20 years from now. But there's a lot of people in life, the people that matter, the people that really matter, are far more willing to forgive than we might expect. And I think that's just quite a good um, way of thinking about life in general. There's a lot of hate out there, but actually, I think we are all far more capable of love than hate. And that's sort of what the movie I wanted to sort of conjure from the film a bit.
How did it go from your script though to being made into a movie?
I mean, blood, sweat, and tears, fights every day. It's insane. We lovingly renamed it Fight of the Day, not Day of the Fight, because getting a film made like this, black and white, truly a character study. Michael Pitt is the lead, period. You take any one of those elements and you're going to have a hard time. Put them all together and it's up mountain battle, not uphill battle. It was crazy, and it's been a battle ever since. We've been fight. It's every day getting distribution from this film, every single part of making something nice, which is heartbreaking to me because I think it's tragic because it's what made me fall in love with film is films like this. This is what made me want to do it. It's what made me want to be in front and behind the camera, tell stories, were human stories, these adult stories. And they are getting fewer and far between each one of these. And at a certain moment, they're not going to exist anymore. There is an imploring aspect inside of this, which I'm like, please come out, support this type of film, support independent cinema, support these character stories, these stories about the human condition, because it's what built us. It's what it's allowing us to feel something. I love to feel. I go to the movies to remember. I don't go to the movies to forget. I want to wake up in the morning and feel it in my stomach still. So, I really do feel we've made that kind of movie, and that's exactly what I wanted to do.
No. I was going to say this is the first time you're directing and you've already won awards for it. So obviously it's doing really well. I mean, like, how did that feel to find that out? I'm sure you were surprised because you hadn't done it before and suddenly you're, there.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's interesting. I knew on set that I was like when I was watching Michael and I wrote every word with him in mind.
Mhm.
It's that I couldn't imagine the film without him. So when you do have those elements, and I think a life past of his life mirroring that art imitating life in essence, I feel like we made this film at the exact moment where every single word that was spoken sort of mirrored one's own life and what one's own struggle and what was going on. So, it's beautiful when you feel you are capturing something which feels magical at the moment. And I felt it on set when we were doing certain moments and certain scenes. There were bits where you come together and you say, actually, this really does feel special. There is something special about it. So when an audience, or when we're having reactions like we have been having, and certain awards, which, they don't mean anything, but they mean everything at the same time, because it is. There's something that drives you from that, which is, hey, actually, we're getting through. This is actually, maybe we weren't crazy. We did feel it on the day, and I watch the film to this day, and I keep watching, because you can't stop. You're always trying to think about what I done, but actually I do look at it, and I feel incredibly proud of the work we did, and that's a beautiful thing to feel, because every day that we fought makes it feel worthwhile, because it's worth the fight when you end up with something that conveys what we actually wanted to convey. We actually made the movie we wanted to make without making any sacrifices, even if it cost me 20 more years of my life just in pain and non-sleep and all the rest of it. But that's it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said that you wrote it specifically for Michael Pitt. Were you surprised you were able to get such a, big cast for it?
Well, that very much sort of played into it. I mean, I wrote all the parts for those specific people. And it's wonderful when that does come together, because there is that sort of lightning in a bottle moment, like where you're capturing it. And without one of those elements, it would be a very different film. Getting Michael was, almost an impossibility. Thank God I eventually found, after walking away from multiple people, because they would have made the movie, just not with Michael.
Right.
But, he's the first to say it. It's amazing, that trust thing that we have, that I couldn't imagine the film without him. If I didn't have him, I didn't have a film. And I think you've got to be willing to almost, walk away if it's sacrificing the integrity of what you want to do, or what the film you want to make, because you'll never be satisfied if you make one of those, concessions, because it's conceding to the entire piece. It's a domino effect, I believe.
Yeah. Do you think being an actor directing that gives you an advantage over, directors who maybe haven't been on the other side of it?
I think as an actor, you work a lot. So I've been on a lot of sets and seen how many different directors, deal with that role. I think being around it, in the ether, being ever the student of film, watching, quietly, consistently watching, learning. I think we all have to do that, but it's great to be able to be on set and see how people react to different styles of directing. And I found that maybe it's what you don't say that helps a lot. Don't get in the way of some actors. I think you've got to allow something to exist before you say no. And there's a lot of no's because people think it's getting in the way of their so-called vision, or, whatever they have imagined. And I said, well, that's the beauty of this, is I like the idea that when I gave this person a role, they own it now. It's theirs to see. It's like a thoroughbred at the starting gates. Once you open the gates, let them run. I don't want to get in the way of you. I'm here to guide. And if it feels like it's going wrong, to sort of edge back to certain things. But I love that process on set of people coming together and what happens, the magic of seeing characters and actors interact, and what we do with a certain lens and push in here, and with, scored it a certain way, certain pieces of editing. It's beautiful when you see the craft come together. And that was the exciting part for me, was all those different elements, managing to capture them together.
Talk about the look. Like, why did you decide to go black and white? I mean, I know it works for that time, but I'm just kind of curious, what was the decision behind that?
I have a deep love and fondness of black and white films. I've always loved them. I find black and white, it's almost why I love, if you look around my office, it's like most of the photos are black and white. There's something that feels like a magnifying glass into the soul. I think from that contrast of black and white, I feel like there's something like also through the journey, it's got the elegy to it. I said that he's living in black and white. He's almost living in purgatory. And he's trying to paint this color to his memories, these flits that come back to him, these fleeting memories that he's trying to paint color to. And at the end of the film, the projections that are full color are projections for the future, which haven't happened, but it's his wish for the future. So they become projections. The metaphor of that, is, Day of the Fight isn't just in the ring. Day of the Fight is he's fighting for everything on this day, everything in his life, everything that came before. And I look at individual moments and I say I wanted it to be work almost as a silent film. You could play music and not hear anything and still get the journey that he's on. And somehow color never felt right. It always, in my head, I couldn't imagine it being anything but black and white. And also, like you said, it's when you're doing period and you don't have much money, black and white can be very forgiving as well. It still keeps the beauty and the authenticity. At the same time, we're not having to paint out a million different things, because 2023, 24, New York, Brooklyn is different to 1989 New York, Brooklyn. The colors, the tones, every part of it's different. So.
Yeah. The only other thing I was going to ask, because I know we're almost out of time, is I read at least in the credits it said Joe Pesci sang that song himself.
Yeah.
That was interesting, and I didn't expect. I didn't know he sang. So.
That's Joe's voice. That's how I cast him. I heard him sing, and I was remembering my grandmother when she was suffering from dementia, that music would pull her back in the room. So I thought, well, how about you get Joe and he doesn't speak, but you hear his voice. You hear him sing, and that's what pulls him back into the room, and suddenly all those memories wash back over him. So that was very much that tool. And then obviously you see later in the film, it sort of comes back to him, almost like crossing the river Styx as the boatman. Like these moments, did it really happen? Did it not? Did he get in the taxi? Did it even exist? But Joe's a world-class singer. He has a voice that sounds like Jimmy Scott, and having that and that song, If I Ever Lost You, it's what he always wanted. He says, as a kid, I used to imagine you wrote that song for me, was his way of saying, all I wanted you to say once was I love you. And then you see that last look on Joe's face, and that's what he could never put it into words, but boy, did he love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know we're over the 10 minutes, but thank you. I appreciate your time. And assuming Internet Movie Database is correct, happy almost birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it is, Jamie. Thank you so much. Very sweet of you to say. Thank you.
I enjoyed the film. So have a good
you're
rest
so
of your
kind.
day.